Hi, this week I met with Rob, the Managing Director of Techstars Berlin and co-founder of Makers Academy in London. And Rob shares a lot of tips for entrepreneurs. We're talking about lean startup, we're talking about how to grow a company, when it's time to pivot, and we were talking as well about the advantages of a global seed stage accelerator like Techstars with a network of companies like Uber, DigitalOcean and SendGrid, and as well the advantages of programs like the Mentorship Accelerator and as well other accelerators Techstars has with SAP, Barclays and other companies in a lot of different verticals. And we were as well talking about the digital startup scene here in Berlin as well as London. And yeah, if you like this talk, just give it a thumb up and subscribe to the channel. And now, enjoy the talk. Yeah, hi, today I'm sitting here together with Rob from Techstars. And Rob founded as well Makers Academy and done as well a lot of entrepreneur ventures. And here at Techstars, he's a managing director of Techstars, and he will tell us a little bit what Techstars is, and as well some tips for entrepreneurs and what Makers is doing, and other tips for entrepreneurs how to grow your company.
Sure. I mean, that's a lot of things. So thank you, Marcus, first of all, for taking the time to sit down. I mean, yeah. So my name is Rob Johnson. I'm the managing director for Techstars Berlin. Before that, I lived in London for about 3 years, where I co-founded Makers Academy. So Makers Academy is a coding bootcamp to teach people the beginning level of being a software developer. So we have a 98% success rate of somebody coming through the 10-week program and being placed within 6 weeks of graduation. So I've been in Berlin for a little bit over 2 years now. I ran the first Metro Accelerator, the Hospitality Accelerator with Techstars. And then we're in the middle of the second Techstars Berlin Accelerator that I'm running now, and I'll be running Techstars Berlin moving forward.
And can you tell us a little bit, what is the advantage to do something together with the accelerator?
With Techstars? Yeah, I mean, it probably makes sense to talk about Techstars a little bit anyway, because we're still fairly new to Berlin. So Techstars is a global seed stage accelerator. So what we do is each Techstars program brings in 10 companies every year. We invest about 120,000 euros. 20,000 of that is common stock equity, and then we write a 90,000 euro convertible note, which is optional for any of the companies coming through. But the financing portion of it is actually not why hardly any companies come through Techstars. The vast majority come through because of the network, because of the expertise of the mentorship and the things that we provide from that aspect. So the companies we have right now, we're in week 10 this week right now. It's a 13-week accelerator. And it all culminates on demo day, which I'm not sure if you've been to a Techstars demo day. We've had a few here in Berlin so far, but it's basically an opportunity for the companies to pitch everything that they've done over the course of the 13 weeks of the accelerator, and basically like showcase it for fundraising purposes or partnership purposes.
And in this 14 weeks, what happens there? I mean, how is a company, or let's say a young startup or entrepreneur who comes now and joins this, or is selected to join this program, what are they doing in this 14 weeks?
It's a good question. So we break up the program into 3 segments. The first is mentorship. So we have a lot of mentors, both from the Techstars ecosystem. I mean, David Cohen mentors all of our companies, who's one of the founders of Techstars. We have a lot of local entrepreneurs and a lot of local venture capitalists that come in and give advice and give mentorship for the companies. But the first 4 weeks is really just bombarding them with lots of different people. And it's not that these people have necessarily know how to run their business better than the people that actually run it themselves, but what it does is it gives them perspective. And that's really one of those things that, if other people have been through what you've been through, they have an opportunity to kind of like to shape that idea by giving you their perspective. Outside of perspective, it's really helpful from the network as well. So I fly around the world helping different Techstars companies and mentoring them, and a lot of times I don't know what's best for the company, and I don't have any particular expertise. I don't have a huge amount of expertise in media companies, for example. But oftentimes what I'll do with companies like that is I'll say, well, I don't know how to help you, but I know like 5 other people that have a lot of deep domain knowledge in this, and just connect them to them. So a lot of mentors come in, and the biggest value they are is just basically opening up their Rolodex and connecting people. So that's the first third. The second third is kind of where the company like solidifies the idea of what they want to use their strategy, like what strategy they want to pursue, and they spend the next 4 or 5 weeks really just heads down working on that. So they end up speaking to 100 mentors probably throughout the Mentor Madness process, and they just solidify what their strategy is going to be, and they work on that for about 4 or 5 weeks. And then the final third is all preparation around like nailing their pitch. So it's not necessarily just for fundraising, although fundraising is a big component of it. But that final third is really just running through pitch practices as many times as we can to really solidify like what's the story. Like it's the best companies don't always raise money the easiest. It's the storytellers that are able to raise money the easiest. It's the people that can walk in and say, this is my vision, this is what I think the world's gonna look like in 10 years, and this is how my company helps us to get there. And then we kind of teach the entrepreneurs how to do that. Okay,
so you divide it into 3 parts, and then is there a schedule for every day then, and if you will talk with 100 mentors, for me it sounds quite a lot, so is there a schedule, okay, every day you talk with this person, or is it everybody comes together, then you have a quick chat with everybody, or how is this process going?
I mean, so it's not high school, it's not university. You know, we do plan quite a few things. We plan workshops, we plan mentoring and things like this, but everything is at an ad hoc and volunteer basis. I mean, Techstars, like the companies, this is my 3rd Techstars program I'm running now, and out of all the companies that I've invested in quite a few that are pre-revenue, and those are the people that you can get a lot of advice, they have a lot of time, all the way up to companies doing, you know, maybe $500,000 a month in revenue. Those guys don't have as much time. They've got 100 employees. Like they can't be, you know, taking meetings for 8 hours a day. So we build a curriculum that we feel is going to be helpful, but then they decide themselves if they want to attend or if they want to opt out of it. So it's kind of like a piecemeal ad hoc basis, but we try to tailor. It's not a curriculum in the sense of steps 1 through 15 and then you graduate Techstars. It's we're going to provide as much value as we can, and then you take advantage of what you feel is going to be advantageous for you.
And you were telling me before you have 4 different Techstars programs here, so how are they differentiate in between?
Sure, yeah. So there's 2 different types of Techstars programs. We have our corporate programs. So here in Berlin there are 2 metro accelerators, one that's focused on hospitality and one that's focused on retail. All of our corporate programs have a vertical focus of some kind. So we have a Barclays accelerator that's focused on fintech. We have, like I said, Metro, one that's focused on hospitality, one that's focused on retail. You know, we have corporate programs with Target, for example, in the United States. And these are all vertical focused programs. It's where we partner with the corporation and they will have a very specific focus of the types of companies that we want to bring in. The other type of program we have is the city program. So I run the Techstars Berlin program, but we also have a Techstars London program, Techstars New York program, Techstars Boston, and these are all vertical agnostic. So really it's just great teams working on interesting ideas. Doesn't matter the business plan, or business model, doesn't matter what the vertical is. It's really just whatever the managing director, what he or she wants to invest in.
And then if you say you partner with a company or corporation, how is this process working? So these corporations give you money, or these corporations then give you as well the expertise, or they give both, and then you select for them, or you partner with them. That means you make some certain share together, or how is it?
Maybe all of the above.
Okay.
I mean, you have a lot of, there's a lot of things packed into that question there, but I mean, it's a partnership. It's, I would say actually each of our corporate accelerators is different, because I mean, every corporation is different, every corporation culture is different. So what we do is we try to go in and work with the corporation to help them meet the goals that they want. I can speak, I can speak a little bit to the Metro Accelerator because I ran the first one. And I know that it was important to them that they wanted to provide new products and services to their customers. But that may not be necessarily the case with a different corporate partner. So we work with them. I think normally what happens is the corporation tries to lean on Techstars' expertise when it comes to running an accelerator, and we lean on the expertise of the industry knowledge. I mean, nobody in the world, I think, has the same level of expertise around hospitality as Metro does, or financial technology as Barclays does. So it's a win-win.
Okay, so then these people partner with you, they give on the one side the knowledge, on the other side maybe as well have other incentives for Techstars and as well for the companies to grow everybody. So it's a win-win-win for everybody.
Yeah.
In this.
We would like to think so anyway. Yeah.
In this sense, okay. And then can you tell us a little bit how is the selection process going? Mm-hmm. So if somebody wants to apply or somebody thinks, I think it's a great program. What should these people do next?
So I mean, you can go to the Techstars website, techstars.com, to figure out which programs are running. I mean, so like we have 4 programs here. I've mentioned 3 of them so far. So there's the 2 Metro programs, the Techstars Berlin program, which I run, and there's our new program, which we haven't run yet, but we just recently announced, which is with a partnership with SAP. So that one's going to be focused largely on artificial intelligence, machine learning. And if somebody here is watching this and is considering joining Techstars or applying to Techstars, I would say go to the techstars.com website, look at which programs are currently recruiting that currently have applications open, and just look at them and figure out if any of them make sense. You know, do a little bit of research into what especially if it's a corporate program, do a little bit of research into figuring out what the vertical is and what their actual thesis is. If it's a city program, you might decide that there's a certain geography that's really important to you. And outside of geography, really it just boils down to who's the managing director, what's the mentor pool look like. I would say talk to the alumni, you know, talk to companies that have gone through. I'm very happy to put anybody in touch with any of the companies that I've accelerated here. But that's usually the best way. It's what we say at Makers Academy as well, is talk to some of the students that have gone through, talk to some of the students that have gone through some of our competitors, and then just compare from there.
And then in general, okay, if they are young entrepreneurs and they don't know, okay, is it good to get an investment first? Is it good to start with the accelerator? Is it good to do something in the incubator? Is it good to bootstrap? Is there some way you would recommend to
I would say define what good means, because any of the ones that you just gave could be the correct path depending on what the objective is the entrepreneur is trying to achieve. You know, you can't paint a broad stroke and say every company is right for an accelerator, every company should be bootstrapping. It's really dependent largely on what the founder's goals are. You know, if you're somebody and you would be perfectly happy and your ultimate goal in life is to just be self-employed and you know, and have a healthy lifestyle, venture capital-backed businesses might not be the way to go. I mean, they're high risk. And they're likely to fail, but you know, if you want to actually try to innovate and disrupt an industry, then often that's the best way to do things. So I think it's identifying within yourself as an entrepreneur, like what your goals are, and then kind of trying to reconcile with people that have gone through each of these different things to determine which path is correct.
And then locally, you say you're running the Berlin Accelerator. I mean, so after the people have done the pitch and so on, are you still in contact with these companies? Are you still supporting them afterwards, or is it like, okay, it's 3 months, 3 months, and then that's it, or how?
No, so we have a cultural context at Techstars that we say it's Techstars for life. So if you're an entrepreneur and you apply to Techstars, and the company you applied and that we invested in ultimately dies, and then you wait a year and build a new company, you still have access to the network. The network is the most powerful thing. We have over 5,000 people everywhere in the world that are really, really willing to give first. So all of the companies here, they reach out to people all over the world that are in Techstars network, and they're opening up their doors and getting on the phone with them, figuring out how to help, and they'll all do it for the next round of companies that come in as well. So I'm on the phone on almost a nearly daily basis with companies that I accelerated over a year ago through Techstars, because it's that constant communication, that constant mentorship. And oftentimes, I mean, it's not like I have a monopoly on the good ideas of how to do things, but we've got companies here, and if they're in the middle of their fundraising round, they'll give me a call and say, hey Rob, can we jump on a 10-minute call? I've got some ideas, my round is coming together, and I'm trying to figure out who's going to lead and how do I negotiate the best terms, and I just jump on a call and try to help out, because it's in everybody's best interest to do so.
And what I'm always thinking then, if you have so many companies and you are as well all over the world and as well inside of the program, how do you have the time to manage all of this? I mean, just from your perspectives, and how you are.
Well, I mean, I think you're using, I don't manage any of them. I'm an investor, so ultimately I'm identifying founders that I think can manage the companies on their own, and I invest in them, I let them manage, and then, if and when they want some assistance, or I see that there's, I have some input that could be useful, then I provide it. It's not that I'm managing any of these companies. All the credit for the success of every company that comes through here goes to the founders. It doesn't go to Techstars or me. It goes to the founders 100%. So I mean, yes, as the portfolio grows, I mean, I guess my personal portfolio is probably hitting close to 40 or 50 companies right now, and I start to feel the strain a little bit, especially when we're in program, when we're in the 13 weeks and all the time is being dominated by the 10 companies that are there right at that time. Then yeah, it can be a little much to reach back, but everybody understands it. It's like, I mean, we use internal software tools to keep in touch with everybody, and I don't think it would ever take me longer than 24 or 48 hours to get back to somebody, even with the rate we have right now.
Cool. And how to, I mean, if other people look at it, do you have some tips to grow a company? Is it like invest money, do online marketing, how do you reach and grow your company and your business? Do you have any tips for people as you as well?
I mean, really high level stuff is, I think the number one thing an entrepreneur needs to do is to overcome their own confirmation bias. Is what happens is, and I did the same thing. I built a company, my first company that I built while getting my MBA. It was a horrible disaster. It failed horribly, but it was that failure that kind of drove me to try to validate my ideas very, very early on in the process. And I think that's a crucially important thing to do for founders, and it's not easy, because what happens is an idea starts to solidify in your mind as an entrepreneur of, I think this is going to work, this is big, this is actually going to work. And then what happens is you start to walk through life with rose-colored glasses, and you just confirm everything. Every piece of data you see confirms your initial assumptions, so then you lose objectivity. And you never actually challenge those assumptions. So one of the things that I try to teach here is to say, okay, every time you ask people, like, what's your assumption, you get down to the base of it, and they say, well, I know this to be true. And I was like, well, how do you know that? That's really the thing, like, how do you know that that's true? Is there some sort of an experiment we can run where we can at least test it very quickly? And if it's something you have so much strong conviction that is true, it should be something relatively easy to test. And oftentimes it is, but every once in a while we'll disprove an assumption, in which case they have to rethink their model. But that's actually an exciting aha moment to have, because it's like we didn't just waste millions of dollars of hard-earned investors' money trying to tell it this wasn't going to work. Let's figure out how to pivot and do something that actually will work from the beginning.
And what are your tips to test your assumption?
There's tons of them. It's a toolbox. It's like early stage validation. I have a lot of this stuff on my blog. Like I haven't had as much time in the last year or two to be able to write as much as I'd like to. But startuprob.com, I have a lot of the stuff there. It's lean startup stuff. It's the caution I would give though to people about lean startup is they provide, Eric provides a very good formula of build, measure, learn. But the problem is people take that formula and they abuse it. And like they'll walk out and they'll say, hey Marcus, I've got an idea for a really, really cool mobile application. I explained to what it is. If I built that, would you use it? And you say, yeah. And then I go back and I say, great, I validated this assumption. That's not validating. You didn't validate anything there. You have to learn how to write the, customer development in particular is exceptionally difficult to do. The questions need to be measured on, are they valid? Are they reliable? Is this actually measuring what I think it's measuring? If I ask this question to the same person 6 months from now, would I get the same answer? There's an empirical way to ask questions to be able to get to the right answers without leading a customer on. And I think not many people spend enough time analyzing the experiments that they end up building in their companies. And I think that's one of the areas where people could improve a lot.
And working with bigger companies, because this is, I think, as well one advantage, is it as well easier then to test assumptions if you have already a big corporation behind which says, okay, this is a useful tool, or is it on the other hand then that you are quite dependent then on one company? Like if you develop one product just for one bigger corporation, let's say like this way, is there, because I see as well something of dependency then on the company.
So one of the things, like, and I guess this is different than some of the other corporate accelerators, which is kind of has a really nefarious term right now. People don't like these corporate accelerators. Is Techstars has no control over these companies. We don't take a board seat. We don't even take preferred stock. We take common stock, just like the founders do. And even with the corporate programs, like they don't have any exclusivity rights over the companies. I mean, we're just in a seed stage accelerator. We're investing, but it's ultimately the founder's company, and we're just providing input. So if somebody goes through one of the corporate accelerators, it's not like they're locked to that corporation forever. What they do is they have access to be able to utilize some of the resources and engage with the company, which can be very useful. I mean, if I'm building, if hypothetically I'm building a financial technology company and I want to expose my new product or service to 1,000 consumers to be able to get feedback on it, it's kind of difficult for me to go out and get 1,000 people to use my fintech app. But if I partner with a large bank who's got all these users on demand, I mean, yeah, that makes things a little bit easier.
Okay. And what are your top 3 tips for entrepreneurs? If say somebody's watching and is thinking, oh, what are your personal top 3?
I go back to the one that I already said, which is overcoming your own confirmation bias. I would say people underestimate how difficult it is to decide when to quit. So that's an exceptionally difficult thing that I think even experienced entrepreneurs have a very difficult time doing. It's very difficult to tell oftentimes if you're on the right path and if you just give it a little bit more to push over the hump. And I also would like to say that I think failing fast is not a mantra that entrepreneurs should live by. I know that's pretty popular with the whole advent of lean startup and things. It's just to fail as quickly as possible. And invalidating a core hypothesis and pivoting quickly, I think, is an important thing. But failing quickly and with the expectation of failing quickly and then wearing that as a badge, I don't think is something that we should be striving to do.
And now if we go a little bit on a more global level, so you worked as well in London. How would you compare London startup scene compared to Berlin startup scene?
Yeah.
Is there some?
There's a lot of bankers in London, which is actually a good thing because a lot of the people that have a little bit of excess wealth. What do they do with that? And oftentimes, if you're sitting at a cocktail party, it's like, hey, I invested in this tech startup. It's a cool thing to do. It's kind of like, hey, I invested in this tech startup. So there's a lot of angel money floating around London. There's a lot of VC money floating around London as well. But Berlin is catching up quickly, and I think the reason Berlin is going to end up winning is just because it's a combination of the fact that the cost of living here is so much lower, therefore you extend your runway so much longer. And I think it's the creativity of the people. I mean, the people here are non-conformist. They're very creative. I mean, you look at just the underground art and music scenes, and I know that many people wouldn't necessarily relate that to startups, but it is. That kind of mentality of creativity, I think, bleeds into every area and every access of life here in Berlin. So I think it's the talent, and it's going to be the increasing amount of venture capital funding that comes here.
And if we compare it with the US?
I mean, yeah. So comparing the startup ecosystems in the United States versus here, Techstars has a saying. We say that we're not anti-Silicon Valley, we're pro everywhere else, and I usually like to say that. I think the startup ecosystems. I mean, I just read a report about actually an hour before you got here that was saying that 21% of the Series A rounds last year in the United States were put into companies that went through accelerators. Here in Europe, it's 18%. It's basically the same. I mean, we're seeing in terms of after accelerator funding or fundraising, at least if you're looking at that metric, it's actually fairly same. The numbers are larger there, the net numbers, but the percentages are actually pretty relevant, relative, and they're going to continue to grow probably at the same pace. Yeah. Okay,
great. I want to just ask you one last question, and this is in regards to your own company, which you co-founded. So, what is the advantage of Makers Academy?
The advantage of Makers Academy?
Yeah.
Just in general?
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, thank you for letting me plug my company for a moment. So, Makers Academy is a coding bootcamp. So, essentially, what it is we teach an education, higher education, we teach to the median, we teach to the average student. So can the average student learn to become a junior developer in 10 weeks? Probably not. But there are a lot of extraordinary people out there. And what happens if we were to try to look at maybe the top 5 or the top 10% of the people that were able to learn at that pace, and if we're able to measure how they learn, can we teach them? And we can. So we founded the company 4 years ago now, and 98% can get a job very, very quickly after graduation. The reason for this is that we have some tests to be able to identify people that are able to learn quickly, and then we work very, very closely with our hiring partners to help them get integrated in very quickly. So we can take somebody who has no background knowledge of coding, and within a matter of 3-4 months, they could be in a job as a junior developer, working on projects. Yeah.
And this the advantage of these boot camps is that it's really hands-on.
Very
really
hands-on.
practical.
It's pair programming the entire time. You have people helping you. All of the work is done directly on your GitHub profile, so any potential acquirer can see every line of code you've ever written. It's all very transparent, yeah.
I think it's great to have this kind of programs because it speeds up the whole technology process and ecosystem.
Yeah. And we have such a huge skills gap already, so I think anybody out there that's trying to teach people how to code, it's a good thing.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
And yeah, thanks a lot.
Absolutely.
For the tips and the advices, and see you soon.
Great, thanks.
Bye bye.
Okay.